if you were to count how many times I'm going to say fun, fantastic, awesome, good book, you could do that and leave it in the comments down below how many times I said it, because I would be interested to know. Oh, also count how many times I say interesting. I do that a lot too. Hello my beauties, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, my name is Janelle, and if you are not new here, hi, my name is still Janelle. Thank you so much for being here. So today I have another video, obviously Janelle. Anyways, today I'm going to be talking about books that I think you should read next. But before we get into that, as always, make sure to subscribe down below and click the bell so that you can be notified every time I upload a new video. I upload every Friday and Sunday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, give this video a thumbs up if you like this video, or if you just like me, that's cool too. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the books. So, I will say that before I get into these books, I have talked about, I think, almost all of these books on my channel before. So some of these are repeats, and some of these you're probably going to be like, yes Janelle, you told us a million times we should read this, but it's just because I just really think you should read this, okay? So just take my advice and read the books, and then I don't have to talk about it a million times. Yes, let's go ahead and get into it. So the first book that I'm going to start off with, I feel like is an easy one, and it's very, very popular, but it is the Harry Potter series. So I love Harry Potter. I'm like a Harry Potter geek. Like, I have a wand, and I've read these books a few times. And I love to watch the movies, and I really get into the spirit of them when I'm reading or watching. But I absolutely love the Harry Potter series. If you like anything like fantasy, magical, you know, good versus evil, this is the book for you. It is a long series. It's 7 books, but even just reading the first one is like so good. Like, to me, reading the first one, it is like reminiscing to me. So I think I've read the first 2 books probably like 4 times maybe, like, because I feel like I get to a certain point in the series and then it's like, okay, this is a lot of books, or like I just kind of fall off or whatever. But I still do really, really recommend Harry Potter. They're just a great read. They're very comforting and cozy, and they're just all around a good book. And the next book that I want to talk about is one that I have actually read. I think a lot of these I've actually read recently, but this one is one of my more recent ones, and it's not one of my favorite books, but I still think it's a really, really good book that I think a lot of people will enjoy, and it is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. So I have talked about this on my channel a little bit. My only thing with this book is that it does have a little bit of a slow start. That's the only thing with this book, but it is very creative and just very thrilling, and it's really, really fun. There are some steamy scenes in here, okay, just to let you know, okay, but there is like a romance that kind of goes on, and it's just all around like a really, really good book. I don't know what like else to say about this. I really, really enjoyed it. I think the only reason it wasn't a favorite is because it did kind of have a slow start for me, but it was still fantastic, and it's kind of an easier read. But this one was super fun and very creepy. Once you get to the end, there's some things you're like, oh, that's disturbing. So if you like disturbing, creepy things, you know, like a weirdo like me, then you should definitely read this book. Okay, this next book I have talked about before. It is one of my favorites. It's not my favorite book, but it is one of my favorites. But it is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. So this one I read, I want to say in like November or December of 2020, and I loved it. It was so good. I cannot wait for the next book to release, because clearly there's a next book. Because if there's not a next book, then I'm really mad at Chloe Gong, okay? Like, really mad. This is like a, kind of like a spin on Romeo and Juliet. Sort of. It's inspired by Romeo and Juliet, I would say, but it takes place in Shanghai, and it's so good. There's also some like spicy moments in here, which is really, really cool. I'm down for it. If you're down for that kind of stuff, this book is what you're going to want to read. This one is just honestly a great read, and it picks up really, really quick. Like, you're like in the story within the first like 15 pages, and it really keeps you interested throughout the entire book. And it's because it's one of those books where at the end of each chapter there's like this cliffhanger, and you're like, oh crap, I need to read the next chapter. And if you're someone like me, you don't like to stop in the middle of a chapter. So when you get to the end of the chapter and it leaves you on a cliffhanger, you're like, gotta keep reading. So this one is great for binging. I binged this one in like a day or two or something like that. It was a really, really quick read. I loved it. You probably have heard of it before. People rave about it in the book community, and it is just all around a fantastic book. Now, this next book. Alright, if you want to skip past me talking about this book because I've talked about it so many times, you can. I totally wouldn't blame you, but this is my all-time favorite book right now. I adore this book. I adore this author. I adore this story. I adore these characters. And it is Kingdom of the Wicked. Obviously, I literally talk about it in probably almost every video, but it is because it is so good. It is one of the best books that I have ever read. I think I finished this one in a day. Like, I was just like eating this book. Like, it was so good. And I was really hesitant about it at first because, you know, we meet like a demon or whatever. And I like to be very careful with what I read because demons can freak me out, okay? Just saying. They're kind of scary. And sometimes I don't like to read about it because it freaks me out. But this one was just, like, just scary enough to where, like, I was still okay. But it also has, like, this lightheartedness to it because there is, like, deep descriptions of food. If you're going to read this book, make sure you have some cannolis on hand, okay? Because she goes into depth about cannolis, and they're just, oh, it's delicious. I literally was reading this book, and they were talking about the cannoli, and I went to the store and bought cannolis because it was just, oh, it was magical. So yes, if you read this book, I'm going to warn you that you're going to be hungry. So that's fun. Eating, reading, love it. Okay, this next book I have read really, really recently, but this was my first time reading this specific author, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I do want to recommend it because I think it's fun. And it is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. So this is the first book that I've read by Riley Sager, and I love it. I have two more that I know of that I really want to read. Is it two more or three more? Three more. It's three more. But this one was really good. Very spooky. It wasn't like a story that I was like, oh my gosh, never heard of that before. But it still was really fun. Like, if you watch crime TV, you know, like Criminal Minds, none of this in here is going to shock you. None of it. But it's really fun to read about. Like, I don't know. It's pretty fun. I mean, like, I shouldn't say a haunted, but like, creepy apartment building. I'm here for it. I don't know about you, but I'm here for it. But I really, really enjoyed this book. I also love the cover. Like, these colors. It is a thriller, so if you like freaky things and also disturbing things, you'll probably like this too. Wow, there's something wrong with my brain. Anyways, this one, yes, read it. It's so good. I love it. And if you like this, I recommend picking up more of Riley Sager's books because a lot of her books I think are very, very similar to this. At least reading the synopsis of the books, they all sound very similar. I also love her writing style. It keeps me invested in the book throughout the entire time. So this one is another one that I think is good for binging. So yeah. And these next two books I have talked about on my channel. I talk about these a lot, and it's because I like them, okay? So the next one that I have is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. This one is a great book to read. This makes you very aware of some things that happen like in the real world that I didn't think happen as often and as frequently as they do, but they do, sadly. But this one is a really, really good book. It is very heavy. It's got some heavy topics. It's kind of weighty, and it is definitely not a book I suggest binging. Just because skimming over the heavy topics that are in here I think is unhealthy. If you like, you know, the music industry, showbiz, that kind of thing, this would be really, really fun because it does start there and it talks about things that happen inside the music world that us as an audience doesn't always see. And it is a little bit heartbreaking, but it is also really interesting to get like an insight on different situations. But this was also based on true events, which I think makes it even heavier. Is that this isn't something that someone just made up. This is real stuff. So it is heavy, but it is a great, great book. And the last book that I have is The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. Yes, I have talked about this on my channel as well. This, if you have been watching my videos, know that this is my all-time favorite thriller right now. And it is just because this is not what you think it is at all. You read the synopsis and you're like, oh yeah, okay, sounds pretty good. And then you read the book and you get about 50 pages in and you're like, what? Like when I got to like the spot in the book, I literally was flipping out. I was telling my mom, I was telling my fiance, I was like, holy crap, this just changes the entire story. And it was so fun, and it was very unpredictable for me, to be honest with you. It's really hard to get a book for me that's unpredictable, just because I feel like there's so many stories that go the exact same direction, and this one definitely didn't. It had me like, what? Oh my gosh, it's so good. Definitely like a mystery, I would say, but mystery thriller is always a good time for me, so I highly, highly recommend this book. Okay, so that is all the books that I have to talk about today. I really, really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope some of these books interest you so that you can read some of these next and maybe even just like have a 24-hour readathon with yourself and just like hit this list. I think that would be super fun. I think you're gonna have a great time reading any of these books, and that is why I recommended them, obviously. So yes, and as always, if you are interested in any of these books, it will be linked in the description box below. You can click on the link, it'll take you to Amazon, you can purchase it yourself. So yeah, but that is all that I have for you guys today. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!